the Honorable Prime Minister. And yesterday, we had the wonderful opportunity of launching what is known as ARISE Challenges, Applied Research and Innovation for Small Enterprises for the MSME sector, along with ISRO, where 3 challenges were launched for the startup community and the MSME community.
Go ahead, sir. No.
Please go ahead, sir. Nilesh, you please mute it. Because it's not speaking. Sir, please go ahead.
Just call the mic.
There is right?
Yeah, sorry for that technical glitch. So, as I said, we have launched 3 challenges yesterday along with ISRO, and we are delighted to do that. But we'll hear more about it later. I would like to kick this event off with a welcome address by Dr. P.V. Venkatakrishnan, Director CBPO ISRO. Dr. Venkatakrishnan has graduated with a master's and a PhD in mechanical engineering from IIT Madras in 1989 and 2006 respectively. He obtained his B.Tech from Cochin University in 1983. He also holds an MBA and postgraduate diploma in production management, to his credit, from Annamalai University. Currently, he is the director of ISRO Propulsion Complex, Mahendragiri. Dr. Venkatakrishnan is also the current national president of the Society of Aerospace Manufacturing Engineers, SAME. He was instrumental in setting up the HAL Aerospace Division in the development phase of the PSLV program and has contributed significantly in the developmental phase of hardware for ASLV, PSLV, GSLV Maker number 2 and MK3. He was also instrumental in initiating the establishment of the Integrated Cryo Engine Manufacturing Facility, ICMF, at HAL Bangalore, and in the introduction of latest technologies and practices. Under his able leadership, the cryogenic engines from GSLV Mk2 and GSLV Mk3 were deployed and realized. He has various affiliations with professional bodies, including the Fellow Institute of Engineers, India, and Fellow of Indian Institute of Metals. We cannot have a better person to start off with the welcome address. I kindly request Mr. Dr. P.P. Venkatakrishnan to give the welcome address.
Thank you so much, Ramananji, for that nice interface, and welcome, first of all, and good afternoon to all the participants and the panelists here. First, let me just a few thoughts what has come to my mind during on this particular occasion. I would just to mention here. It is 6 decades of ISRO right now, as you are aware now, and Atmanirbhar ISRO, you might have seen, we have been on this mission for quite a long time. Now Atmanirbhar Bharat has come now, definitely. We have been striving for self-reliance in the field of space rocket systems and satellite systems for quite a long time, all through our journey, since our inception. We have, you might have seen, we had 3 verticals like space transported systems, spacecrafts, and space science and exploratory missions. Now the importance is so much of how much of importance we are giving to startups and our ecosystem space business build up, and we must be understanding that we have created a new vertical in ISRO now, capacity building program office, which addresses to all these requirements and needs. Indigenization, you might have seen, we have been into indigenization for quite a long time. Almost all the metallic materials of ISRO, our rocket launching systems and satellite systems are indigenized right now. We are into chemical and electronic systems also right now. We are focusing on that. And you might have seen that we have a lot of technology transfers to small scale industries, MSMEs, and buyback policies to see that we are self-reliant in these kind of small fields also. Even a small component which is not coming through, if it is imported, if it is not coming through, you must be understanding that this can put our space program into a grinding halt and jeopardize the entire program. So we need to see that everything is now indigenized now. That is one important thing we are all into. And we have indigenization boards existing in ISRO for all the different disciplines and fields. Apart from that, you are also aware that yesterday we are very clearly told that import substitution. And one thing, we are all very clear that import substitution is one primary thing we need to do. But if you want to completely stop the import and go into a kind of self-reliance and Atmanirbhar, then go to the next step of exporting things from India. That's a long way to start actually, because we need to, if you are investing on mainly, if you are investing now at present for the capex and all these things, capital expenditure, you are all aware that the cost of production will be definitely very high for us, much more than the import cost what really we are having. So we need to address all these things. If you really want to promote import substitution, we need to see that certain guidelines are given to us to see that even if it is slightly costlier than import what we are rightly now, we need to go ahead with the national products and Swadeshi products. So these things we have to be enabled through our legal system and whatever rules and regulations what we are having right now. We need to see that if it is Indian made component, Indian made system or Indian made chemical, we need to see that even if it higher cost, because definitely the cost of production, if it comes from somewhere from outside, you must be knowing that it will be marginal costing now. They'll be having that already that return of investment, already they made ROI they might have got. They might be going into production mode. They might be having N plus one production right now, marginal costing, and they must be having some kind of a profit margin which they can subsidize and compete with us very dangerously, and we can still kill our import, whatever this one we are having. So these things now we need to address. This is one important thing I just want to highlight in this meeting, which we need to be addressed at higher ups, even at a higher cost. And apart from that, this particular office after taking over has given me a chance to see that all across the country, the academic institutions and industries, I had an opportunity to visit them and talk to them. And as you are all aware that all the equipments in the labs of all our educational institutions right now are also imported. Even the Mitutoyo or whatever you call, the kind of vernier or screw gauge what we are having is all from Japan. You must be knowing what is the kind of market now we are having in India for these kind of things, even for servicing also. So we need to see that there are opportunities existing in India all through the country, right from top to bottom and length and breadth of the country and across the country. We need to identify them and see that how best we can capitalize on the marketing of all these things right now. And these equipments, once you are able to indigenize and you start using it, then comes, without the kitchen you can't cook. So if you don't have the equipments right now, it has to be imported, they will have a hurdle on that. So we need to first address the exact infrastructure what need to be created in India, even the small and big. We need to attack the small first so that we'll get a winning point. Win-win situation has to come first. More winning comes in the beginning will give you the kind of self-confidence. So we need to start with smaller systems and go for higher systems and all. As a part of this only, you might be knowing that we are taken up a semiconductor lab in Chandigarh. Now we are into electronic components also. There's a national demand creation is required for FDA also to flow. If the components are not having a market in India, I don't think by single window systems and other easing out and other regulations and all, FDA will not come to India. They need to have a good market in India also for marketing. Then only all these startups right now we are talking about, we cannot go through public sector alone now. The old policies are born now. Unless we need to have startups coming up in a big way, creating a demand for this kind of equipments and kind of other infrastructure facilities, which is in India, then FDI can come to India. Slowly, if the FDI is coming to India, we can master the technology of all this production of these equipments also in India itself. And we can create a channel for creating that facilities in India itself. So this is one kind of a thought process which has gone into my mind so far. Apart from that, we need to see that the kind of technical expertise or studentship what is coming out from all the institutions are huge, large now because creation of IITs in almost all states, NITs. So job opportunities also we need to create. Unless we have startups here which can provide their own colleagues, some 4 or 5 colleagues, a job opportunity here also, this also cannot be addressed. So all put together, startups are a must. And of course, definitely when it comes to space startups are a little more dangerous, bit more, you have to have your litigation to be, you should have the kind of peer mitigation is a must here, because they're kind of a success stories are not coming through very fast, may not come through very fast in space startups. So we need to handhold them. So we are creating a channel here, a system here. We will discuss it in detail, and we have taken the Space Federation feedback also. We are discussing with them also. We are discussing with Niti Aayog also. We need to have a system in place here to see that how space startups can be ushered in India, how they can be, what kind of handholding can be done to them. The details of this will be presented by my colleague Sudhir here in the later part of this workshop here. At the outset, let me thank Adal Innovation Mission Director, MD, our Ramananji, for starting these initiatives with us and have a fruitful discussion. We are now here in this particular stage of implementation of the entire process. Let me first of all thank and welcome my own boss and our Honorable Chairman ISRO, Dr. K. Shivan, for this particular program of workshop what we are having now, empowering India startups to transform space sector with ISRO and Adal Incubation Mission AIM. Apart from that, we got a lot of speakers here. Vikram Reddy from General Electronic, General GE, and Sanjay Raju, Joint Secretary, Defense Secretary, Department of Space Production, Ministry of Defense. Sri Kunal Kumar, Joint Secretary, Smart Cities, Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. Justin Paul from SAP, and Harish Krishan from Cisco. And we are having a specialist panel here with the venture investor incubators and accelerators being addressed by Mukesh Bansal, Rama Iyer, and so of CEO of Nama Accelerator. An overview of startup will be given by my own colleagues here, my colleague here in Sudhir. Apart from that, we have got 2 eminent speakers, Nilesh Desai and Rajashree Bothle from NRC and SACT here. So I welcome all the panelists and speakers here for this particular workshop, as well as all the participants, and around 52, 53 odd space startups have registered. Actually, space startups, I mean space startups. It's a huge number actually for me. 50 plus space startup existing in India registering for its first workshop is a huge encouragement for me and ISRO. I welcome all of them, and numerous students and other community, enthusiastic community who are watching this program all through the world through our links and YouTube, all of them. I wish them all the very best deliberations in this particular meeting, and the outcome will be fruitful, I hope. And I welcome all of you once again, and good afternoon, all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Venkatakrishnan. And I think you set the stage for the rest of the discussion. All the points that you mentioned are very, very pertinent. How are we going to ensure import substitution? How can we export our enhancement through futuristic technology that we can develop? How do we also ensure that the servicing industry meets the challenge? Because that is a very important part. You mentioned about the numerous opportunities that are there in the space sector space for us to be able to address. But you also mentioned that it is important for us to go from small win-win situations to large investments in innovation. You shared about the need for technical expertise to be developed in our universities to be able to meet the space sector challenges which are there today as well as for the future. You did refer to the risk management that is involved and how ISRO, along with partners like Adal Innovation Mission, can help in managing this risk, removing the fear that would be there for many space startups, because we need very, very high quality, reliable innovations that will make an impact and that will not stimulate in the startups a fear that this is not something that they should be venturing into. And we need venture capitalists also to be able to invest in all of this. So all the points that you mentioned are very, very relevant. I thank you so much for sharing and setting the stage, because these are some of the questions that we would like our panelists as well as the speakers to be able to address as we go along. And now I am having the pleasure and the privilege to request Dr. Sivan, who of course needs no introduction, but it is my obligation to share a little bit about how he has spurred India into an advanced position, an enviable position, I would say, in space satellite research through his initiatives and the initiatives of his fellow colleagues. Dr. K. Sivan joined ISRO in 1982. He was inducted into the PSLV project. He is specialized in aerospace engineering, space transportation systems engineering, launch vehicle and mission design control, and guidance design and mission simulation software design. He is also specialized in mission synthesis, simulation analysis, and validation of flight systems. Dr. Sivan has significantly contributed towards end-to-end mission planning, design, integration, and analysis. His innovative contributions, particularly the strategies adopted in mission design, enabled the consistent performance of PSLV. This also proved to be a good foundation for other launch vehicles of ISRO like GSLV Mk2 and Mk3, including RLV-TD. He is the chief architect of the G6D trajectory simulation software, Sitara, which is the backbone of the real-time and non-real-time trajectory simulations of all ISRO launch vehicles. He was responsible for commissioning world-class simulation facility in ISRO for mission synthesis and analysis, which is used today for mission design, subsystem level validation, and integrated validation of avionics systems in all the ISRO launch vehicles. He developed and implemented an innovative day of launch wind biasing strategy that enables rocket launch on any day under varied weather and wind conditions. He was the chief mission architect for successful launch of 104 satellites in a single mission of PSLV, something that the country is extremely proud of, and we talk about it everywhere we get a chance to. He has, of course, received many awards, including Doctor of Science from selected universities. He has numerous publications in various reputed journals. But most of all, he is a very humble, unassuming man, dedicated to the cause of research, innovation, and, of course, furthering the space technology and ISRO's missions into the future. Thank you so much, Dr. Sivan, for agreeing to participate in today's event. We are eager to hear from you about and encourage and inspire all the people who are attending the call, the space startups, the 52 space startups that Dr. Venkatakrishnan referred to, and all the other budding startups who would like to play a contributory role to the growth of the Indian space sector.
Thank you, sir. My dear Sri Ramanan Ji, Mission Director, Atal Innovation Mission. Sri Sanjay Sarju, Joint Secretary, Department of Defense Production. Sri Kunal Kumar, Joint Secretary, Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. Sri Mukesh Bansal, Sri Ramaya, and Ms. Sawat Kenfish. My friends from industry, MSMEs, and most importantly, the startups, colleagues from ISRO, and all others participating in the webinar. A very good afternoon to you all. And let me welcome you all once again for this exciting world. I'm extremely glad that this one-day workshop is being jointly organized by ISRO and Atal Innovation Mission, which is a flagship initiative of DPIO. Yesterday, Atal Innovation Mission launched Atmanirbhar Bharat Anik Arrays program, where ISRO is also collaborating in promoting innovation and research in startups and MSMEs. And ISRO has identified 3 specific areas in propulsion, geospatial information, as well as space robotics, wherein ISRO will provide all possible institutional support to startups and MSMEs in developing these technologies. Atal Innovation Mission will be funding two winning proposals through grant in aid, and ISRO will be the first buyer of the developed product. Till recently, all space activities within the country were carried out only by ISRO. We all know that global space economy is on a growth trajectory, and our domestic requirements are also growing manifold. Once we are implementing the Digital India program, our requirement for space-based application is going to explode. A few weeks back, the government of India took a prudent decision to unlock the space sector by allowing private sector to take up the space activities. As part of the space sector reform, a new entity called Indian National Space Production and Authorization Center, that we call InSpace, has been established within Department of Space. InSpace will not only act as a regulatory body, but also handhold, promote, and facilitate sharing of ISRO infrastructure with private sector. As part of promoting research and innovation in the space sector, ISRO also announced the system development opportunity in human spaceflight program by academia as well as industry in a wide spectrum of technologies ranging from healthcare to space system. I am glad that we have received more than 200 very good proposals which are being evaluated by our experts. Definitely, the experts not only from ISRO, from the country also will be involved. Similar announcement of opportunities will be made for our future programs, including interplanetary missions. We all know that space system development, testing, and operation is highly critical, capital intensive, especially when it comes to system development and testing. And also, there are a lot of risk involved. Over the last 5 decades, ISRO has established a wide plethora of test and evaluation as well as integration facilities for various space systems. Earlier, there was no mechanism to either share the technical expertise or facilitate ISRO infrastructure usage by private sector. Now, there is a formal mechanism in place. We envisage a scenario where the private sector will be a co-traveler in ISRO's space mission. Private sector will also be empowered to carry out its own development missions. Let me assure you that this is just the beginning. The workshop today is aimed at creating conducive environment for a liberal and inclusive sector. Department of Space is also working towards creating a formal system to support space sector startups and MSMEs in taking up innovation, research, as well as product development. The program is conceived as Space Enterprise Encouragement and Development with SEED, and the broad contours of the program will be shared today. SEED is envisaged as a competitive early stage encouragement program to innovative small business concerns or startups interested in developing products and services in focus areas of interest to ISRO. DOS will compile a list of potential products and services in the space science, technology, and application for development by industry. Department of Space will also offer in-house developed space technology for development of as spin-offs to industry. All of this will be share the opportunities for startups, and MSMEs. A mechanism for technical mentorship from Department of Space has also been initiated. ISRO has established incubation centers at NIT, Agartala, Trichy, and Jalandhar, and a few more are in the pipeline. ISRO has also established research academia centers and space technology cells at different IITs and universities across the country. This will help as knowledge centers for space activities. The interested youth can make use of these centers for space technology research and development. I definitely am sure that today's workshop will be fruitful in achieving its objective in seeding a thriving space ecosystem in the country. I ask all of you to come forward and work us in creating a vibrant, dynamic space sector for the India's 21st century. Thank you, Jai Hind.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sivan, for those not only encouraging but very inspiring words and throwing so much light on the various initiatives that ISRO is taking in order to support the startup ecosystem. And as you rightly said towards the end, how do we ensure that we can create a thriving, vibrant, dynamic, and an expansive space ecosystem so that budding innovators, startups, and entrepreneurs can find their place in being able to contribute not only to the leveraging of space technology, but to the growth of space technology. You also talked about the various formal mechanisms that you are putting in place in order to allow integration of innovations into ISRO's facilities, a formal mechanism for being able to share the very advanced infrastructure that you have put in place over the years with the private sector. The seed program, which is going to be tremendous encouragement to early stage innovations, both from the startup sector and the MSME sector. You shared about technical membership with the Department of Space and the incubation centers that you're going to expand on, which you already have in place and which you would like to scale up. Your words bring tremendous cheer and encouragement to all the people who have logged on to the call. I'm sure this will also have huge impact in terms of spurring startup community beyond the 52 startups. In fact, I know that there are all the Athal incubator startups have all logged on to this call to be able to see, and we have more than 1,500 startups right now in the Athal Innovation Mission ecosystem. They have logged on to this call to be able to see what part they can play in the evolution and the growth, further growth of the space sector. Once again, I want to thank you so much for your speech, as well as for your inspiration and for setting the stage further. I'd like to now share a little bit about Athal Innovation Mission itself to all the people who are new to the Athal Innovation Mission, and how we are partnering with ISRO and several other ministries to be able to promote and create a very dynamic environment of innovation and entrepreneurship. As all of you are aware, the Athal Innovation Mission was set up about 3.5 years ago under the auspices of the Niti Aayog, the National Institution for Transforming India. It was conceived by the Honorable Prime Minister, and the idea was, how do you create and promote an ecosystem of innovation and entrepreneurship across the length and breadth of our country? Athal Innovation Mission took a very holistic approach in being able to do that. It realized that not only should you create a culture of innovation and problem solving in our country, but you also should create that ecosystem where thousands of innovators are able to realize their aspirations and their dreams of becoming an entrepreneur. And we should become a nation of job creators, not just job seekers. After all, we are a country of 1 billion people, and we have more than 150 million young students who are entering into the workplace through our universities, schools, colleges, and so on. How do we leverage the demographic dividend that we enjoy and which is the envy of many a country for the purposes of driving innovation, entrepreneurship, new job creation in the country? So with that, the Athal Innovation Mission launched several initiatives. I'll mention a few here. At the school level, we have launched thousands of what are known as Athal Tinkering Labs. And these tinkering labs are dedicated innovation workspaces in schools where young children from grade 6 to grade 12 are able to dabble and tinker with the latest of technologies, 3D printers, robotics, IoT devices, miniaturized electronics, augmented virtual reality with do-it-yourself kits. These kits are become affordable, advanced, and available so that they can be implemented in these schools, and young children get a chance to start solving problems in and around the communities that they are living in. It creates a problem-solving, innovative mindset, which is away from the rote learning mindset that we all have been used to and with which most of us have grown. So this has now enabled more than 2.5 million students today, with more than 10,000 adult tinkering labs being established and 5,000 of them being operational across the country, to be exposed to innovation and problem solving. Now, when these students go into the universities, we are setting up world-class incubators so that these incubators can foster world-class startups. India has today almost 500 incubators in our country, and it is amazing how the startup nature in the country and the startup evolution has happened so speedily over the last few years. We have more than 50,000 startups in our country today. We have more than 21 unicorns in our country, and 60 Indians across the world have been responsible for creating unicorns. Now, that is an enormous power, intellectual horsepower that we have in our country, and we need to be able to boost and support this, the startups across the country. And that is why these incubators are so important, because they help many startups overcome the valleys of death, as they call. Valleys of death because you don't have the right support of mentoring or venture capital or access to a technology lab or access to a research lab or access to testing infrastructure or access to mentoring or access to business planning and strategies. So these incubators facilitate that. And as you just now heard, ISRO has also set up world-class incubators, and they would be opening up their test labs and their infrastructure for the startups to be able to test out their products, because it is not possible for the startups to be able to afford to create that environment. Now, we have today 1,500 startups through the Atal Innovation Mission ecosystem. We have selected 100 incubators for implementation, but 70 of them are operational, and we have more than 500 women-led startups in India. And I want to encourage all the women-led startups and women-led entrepreneurs. After all, many women have accomplished themselves in the entrepreneurial field and in the startup field. And I do hope that the space technology and space startups attract a lot of women entrepreneurs, because there are many of them are highly qualified. And of course, you all know about Kalpana Chawla, you know about Tessie Thomas. They are all names which and icons which all the women entrepreneurs can identify themselves with and which can help them to grow. The third thing that we do is we launch what are known as community innovation centers, Atal community innovation centers. And these are in order to be able to service rural India, tier 2, tier 3 cities, so that innovations that come out from all the other parts of the country get implemented in these community innovation centers. We also need to be able to foster local community innovation based upon where the community is located. For example, if you are we are a country with 600,000 villages, 715 districts. We have 115 of them as aspirational districts. Now, these districts, every one of them have their unique needs. And in order to be able to provide equal opportunity to education, healthcare, clean drinking water and sanitation, affordable housing, electricity for all, water management, you need to be able to create innovations and spur entrepreneurship in every part of our country. And therefore, these Atal community innovation centers are being set up. And also, we'll be using these community innovation centers to deploy, for example, satellite and space technology-based applications for the farmer, the rural farmer, for the education purposes, for healthcare, and so on and so forth. The opportunities are endless. We are 1 billion people with 1 million challenges. But as I always say, the million challenges are 1 million opportunities for all the startups to grow up in this ecosystem. The fourth initiative we have is what is known as ARISE, the Applied Research and Innovation for Small Enterprises, and Atal New India Challenges for large-scale innovations. We launched ARISE yesterday with 15 challenges, along with the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Defense, Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, the Ministry of Food Processing, and with ISRO. Now, these challenges are to stimulate MSME innovation, because as all the other speakers pointed out, we need to be able to reduce our import dependencies. We need to be able to facilitate
futuristic technology-based exports, and we have a unique ability and opportunity to do that. After all, the Indian industry grew by 108 to $191 billion IT/ITES industry just in the last 10 years. We have that intellectual capability, we have the knowledge capital. How do we leverage all of that to drive innovation to the next level and entrepreneurship to the next level? And that is why these challenges, like the ARISE challenges, the IDEX challenges, which we have launched along with defense, which I'm sure Dr. Jaju will expound on, the various ARISE, the ANIC challenges, other New India challenges that we have launched with various ministries, these will become a source of solutions for problems and will have national socio-economic impact. And finally, to be able to support all of these initiatives, we are very closely working with the private sector, with individual mentors, and with global NGO organizations. It is very important. When we look at the startup world, how do we bring a convergence of public, private sector, industry, local government, and central government into play? Because unless all of these actors come together, we will not be able to have the impact that these initiatives need and the thrust that is required. Now, in order to do that, we have created a Mentors of India, Mentors of Change network. And today we have more than 10,000 mentors registered in the Atal Innovation Mission. And these are associated with Tinkering Labs. 5,000 of them are associated today with Atal Tinkering Labs. And there are more than 100 mentors, 150 mentors who have been associated with startups and with incubators. Many private sector players like Cisco and Dell Technologies and IBM and Google and so on, they work very closely with Atal Innovation Mission to be able to support not only our initiatives, but to be able to actually contribute to the initiatives and to contribute to the startup world. The COVID-19 situation actually brought industry, academia, and government very close together. I was fortunate to head and coordinate a group of ministries, Startup India, the Department of Biotechnology, Department of Science and Technology, Atal Innovation Mission, Invest India, and Agni, and so on. All of us searched for COVID-19 related solutions to address this current global pandemic. And what did we find? We found more than 1,500 startups who had preventive, assistive, and some curative solutions for the COVID-19 crisis. Now, that was amazing because the startup world that has been in the making, 50,000 startups that I talked about, which have been in the making, have responded splendidly to the COVID-19 crisis. We now have an opportunity post-COVID-19 to resurrect India and create the Atmanirbhar Bharat that the Honorable Prime Minister has espoused by focusing on the 5 pillars, the pillar of technology, the pillar of demographic dividend, the pillar of demand, the pillar of socio-economic progress, and the pillar of infrastructure. We need to ensure that not only the physical infrastructure is enhanced in this country, so that the 600,000 villages, the 715 districts are all connected, the 8,000 towns and cities that are there all become hubs of innovation and job creation. And therefore, we are very, very privileged and we feel very proud that we are part of this Atal Innovation Mission ISRO initiative for the startups. The space sector is one sector which every one of us can unquestionably claim to have leadership. The space sector of India has demonstrated to the rest of the world the capabilities of Indian technology, Indian innovation, frugal innovation, affordability and accessibility, while at the same time ensuring space leadership. Now, that's something we should take full advantage of, and it is wonderful now that the private sector is being allowed the opportunity to participate in the space programs. That's going to usher in a new era of growth, exponential growth, I would hope, for the space sector in India, but also for all the related sectors, because the space sector is intricately tied up with other sectors, benefits to the other sectors, whether it is in agriculture, whether it is defense, whether it is smart cities, whether it is in transportation systems, artificial intelligence, you name it. The data that comes through space technologies is going to play a very important role in being processed and create solutions for the rest of the country. And whatever solutions we develop for India are going to be solutions for the rest of the world. So I want to thank everyone who has logged on to this call. I don't want to share more about Atal Innovation Mission and its initiatives. We want to hear more about the startup world of many other ministries that every other ministry has been advancing. We are going to have a panel discussion shortly to begin with. So I want to thank all of you all for giving me this opportunity to also share a few thoughts on this occasion. So with that, we go on to the next segment of our workshop. The next segment is a panel discussion with very, very illustrious people from the industry as well as from the government. The topic is building an Atmanirbhar Bharat by forging partnerships, global tech giants, and with startups. And I did refer earlier when we talked about Atal Innovation Mission initiatives, how important collaboration is in building the Atmanirbhar Bharat of our dreams. How important it is for us to see, and actually one thing I forgot to mention, the COVID-19 crisis actually brought a great appreciation of the startup world by the corporate industry. The corporate industry understood. It was like a watershed movement for the corporate industry because many institutions, large corporates realized the power of Indian startups. It was almost for me, because I come from the IT world. The Y2K movement was an eye-opener for the rest of the world about Indian IT capabilities. People flocked to, once they started seeing that India can solve their Y2K problems, they came in, they saw, and the Indian IT giants conquered. They realized that they can do much more with Indian IT than just solve the Y2K problem. And that opened up a $191 billion industry. In a similar manner, the COVID-19 crisis has opened up the eyes of our industry, corporate industry, as well as institutions, to the startup community and the startup world. So we have now a great opportunity to synergize and use that eye-opener for launching a hugely successful drive in innovation and in the startup world. So I'm delighted to welcome the following people who are going to be part of this panel discussion. Let me share a little bit about their profile. Shri Sanjay Jaju, the Joint Secretary, Defense Industry Production, MOD. Sanjay Jaju, who is a very good friend, first of all, a friend of mine, but more importantly, he is today, and he's an IAS from the 1992 batch and currently leading innovations for defense excellence through an initiative called IDEX. This is a unique initiative by the Ministry of Defense to promote indigenization of defense equipment, machineries, and software through co-development of startups. The next speaker, the next fellow panelist is Shri Kunal Kumar, who is the Joint Secretary of Smart Cities Mission in the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. Also a very close friend and an associate in the government. Mr. Kunal Kumar is an IAS from the 1999 batch. He graduated from IIT Roorkee in electrical machine and design, is currently leading a very, very important initiative, the Smart Cities Mission, as the mission director. My interaction with Kunal Kumar has often revealed his incisive intellect in being able to pierce through the problems that smart cities have and how we can play a role, how startups and MSME industry can play a role in solving those problems. We have Vikram Reddy, who leads engineering at GE Aviation. GE, as all of you know, is one of the leaders in engineering technology. They also were to set up the first Jack Welch R&D center. I had the good fortune of opening up that center when I was in Bangalore. The first joint innovation between TCS and GE was called the GEAE, GEIS, and that resulted ultimately in the Jack Welch Center being opened up. Fantastic center where a number of Indians are doing leading research in all those areas. Vikram holds an MS in machine design from IIT Madras. He has been associated with GE for around 17 years. He has been working in GE Aviation for more than 7 years. He is currently the site leader of 700 plus strong team working on current fleet, future products and technologies. We also have the pleasure of welcoming Justin Paul, who is the lead in SAP Startup Studio and Industry Initiatives. Justin leads SAP Startup Studio, the open innovation program at SAP Labs India, aimed at nurturing a vibrant enterprise tech startup ecosystem for SAP in India. He's been part of this initiative since its inception and has enabled to scale it to become the preferred partner for open innovation within SAP's customer ecosystem in that region. As part of the Managing Director's office at SAP Labs India, which is the R&D arm for SAP SE, he is also responsible for driving various strategic initiatives that involve interfacing with the industry and other innovation and impact-driven initiatives. And we also have Harish Krishnan, again a close friend, working very closely with Atal Innovation Mission and the Niti Aayog, who is the Managing Director at Cisco Systems India. He leads Cisco's strategic engagement with national and state governments of India on a wide range of public policy issues that concern Cisco in India. As an investor, globalization hub, business unit, and as a corporate citizen, he manages the operations of Cisco India's external advisory board, which advises on transformational projects and strategic issues on a 3 to 5 year horizon. Cisco works closely with industry associations, and currently he co-chairs Digital Economy Committee, US India Business Council. He is the chair for the Confederation of Indian Industry Group on broadband, chairman Manufacturing Committee MADE, chair Corporate Social Responsibility Committee, AmCham, vice president and co-founder Public Affairs Forum of India. There are very few things that he's not involved in, Harish, and I want to thank you all of you gentlemen who are, I know, very busy otherwise to participate in this panel discussion. So let me open it up with a question to the government officials who are present today, and that is, can you throw some light, starting with you, Mr. Jaju, and then Mr. Kunal, could you throw some light on inter-ministry mechanisms to promote or encourage co-development of products that could benefit both the ministries with which you are associated involved, and how are you roping in private sector and startups and stimulating innovations to be able to be procured by the government? It would be great if you can start off, Mr. Jaju, followed by Mr. Kunal.
Have to join in. We're trying to fix their lines. They're checking with us.
All right. Okay. Then let me move on to Harish. Harish, how would MNCs, global tech organizations, address Atmanirbhar Bharat as an opportunity to engage with the local startups? And I would like Vikram and Justin also to be able to give their views on the same question. Harish, I can start off with you.
Hey, thank you very much, Ramana, and pleasure to be associated with the Atal Innovation Mission. Like you said, we have a long history of working together. At the outset, I want to congratulate both Atal Innovation Mission and ISRO for announcing 3 new challenges for MSMEs and startups in India yesterday. It really demonstrates the faith that you have on the startups to solve some of the most challenging problems that the country has, and that indeed is the way to go forward. One of the earlier speakers talked about the opportunities in a component ecosystem in India. That is actually a very good one. I just wanted to pick on that because there's a lot of pressure on bringing global companies to manufacture in India. But I think the real value addition will be if you're able to promote startup component manufacturing industry in India, encourage them to locally produce it, which can be sourced by global companies, right? So which will likely help when they set up manufacturing to increase value addition in the country, and that way we build up the manufacturing industry bottom up as well as top down. So I think it is extremely important that we do, and we become a bit more deliberate about it. And so far as Cisco is concerned, we are in our 25th year in India. We've been a comprehensive investor in India, and we have over 30,000 employees, both direct and indirect, of which 12,000 are in R&D and in engineering, right? And Cisco is also slowly moving from being a hardware company to more into software, cybersecurity, and as a solution platform. And there is a tremendous scope for collaboration with startups there. Over 60% of Cisco's global products, India has a significant role in development of these products. There is a point of view that the global R&D centers, while they add tremendous value to the corporation do not add much value to the local ecosystem, and we have been kind of very conscious of it and want to correct that impression, and therefore we have been very involved with startups in our local local ecosystem, basically through two vehicles. One is the Launchpad that we have, which is an initiative taken by our engineering organization. In fact, it was established in 2016 as a direct result of the Prime Minister's Digital India vision, and where he talked about the need for more and more collaboration between public and private sector to take the benefits of digitization to the lengths and breadths of the country. It is our vision to Launchpad is our vision to give back to startup community by creating an exciting environment to connect, collaborate, and conquer. Through this platform, we have supported nearly 50 startups through mentorship programs, tech integration, joint go-to-market strategy, investor connects, and ecosystem enabling events. The startups incubated by Cisco under this Launchpad program are also across sectors. In fact, we have some very promising startups who have solutions in satellite technology and defense technology. I will just name three. SatSure, it leverages advanced satellite remote sensing, machine learning, and big data analytics to provide answers to large area questions across multiple domains, especially in agriculture. We're using SatSure for our agri project in Kerala, for example, right now, which is helping the farmers understand how their farm can be made more productive by satellite imagery of their farms across timelines. Astrom is another startup developed and patented a core multi-beam phased array technology operating in the millimeter wave frequencies. They have collaborated with Navy and Airbus. And finally, Whale Mini and QNU Labs address defense use cases, including providing quantum safe security. Like I said, we see Cisco as a kind of platform, and the startups have a great ability to layer on top of the platform and come up with good solutions. Like you said, Ramana, COVID has actually accelerated a lot of things that would have happened over time. Like, for example, education, remote education, healthcare, etc. And we see WebEx as a kind of platform on which startups can innovate and come up with good solutions in healthcare, in education. For example, one of the startups that we promoted, the Cloud Physician, is already doing a phenomenal role during the COVID times. And so too another startup called Care Nation, which is also into this remote ICU business on a WebEx platform. The second vehicle that we have to interact with startups is through our CSR program. And you are very well aware of the Cisco Thinkubators that we have set up in 6 different universities, which is like actually inspired by Atal Incubation Labs itself. It's a maker space, and the way the students not only get good equipments to work on, but also the consumables that Cisco provides. We also provide our mentors from across the world. It is just not from India, across the world, who talk to the students, and we've been tremendously encouraged by the results, success of that. Similarly, we also participate in promoting social enterprise incubators, again in partnership with Atal Innovation Mission. We recently participated in the graduation of the 4th cohort of the social enterprise initiative that we did. Again, a lot of promising micro entrepreneurs come out of that particular process. Finally, with Atal Incubators itself, we have, like we're doing this on WebEx, and we've connected all the 100 incubators through WebEx. And we believe in Cisco, when you connect the unconnected, magic happens, and we will play our role in connecting the unconnected. Thanks, Ramana, for the opportunity.
Excellent. Thanks, Harish, for sharing all those various initiatives of Cisco and how you are supporting startups, how you are encouraging them, how you're mentoring them, and how also you are involved in the Thinkubator world of stimulating ideas and new innovations, and working closely with not only the startup community, but also the technology communities and the investment communities. Justin, can you tell me a little bit about how your organization works with startups? And when we look at this space tech, I mean, we are talking about space startups and space tech. What are the areas in which you feel you can bring value to the initiatives that startups have, or support them in whatever way would be most meaningful to them and as well as to you.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Ramanan, for the invite, and this is a great opportunity to be here. And looking forward to this great initiative. So, from an SAP standpoint, primarily the engagement in India, especially, is something that I drive. Is called SAP Startup Studio. This is essentially our open innovation program. What we essentially do here is we identify enterprise grade solutions, essentially B2B solutions, which complement to SAP's technology stack, and then kind of enable these startups to co-innovate with SAP. So, which means we kind of provide them the technology guidance, the technology readiness, and also then eventually take them to our customer ecosystem. So it's a complete journey. It's just not about co-innovating, but ensuring that they are able to generate revenue through this engagement. And this is a model that we started experimenting in 2018, and so far we've had an impact of close to 1 million euros worth influence revenue generated for SAP, and close to 18 of the startups working extensively with our customer ecosystem in India. So this for us is a very big takeaway for the larger ecosystem, because we are just not here to just build solutions on top of our stack. Rather, we are looking at how can we monetize what the innovations that these solutions or these startups are trying to bring onto SAP's table. So that's one aspect. So that's something that we've been very successful in piloting it here. And right now, India is essentially becoming the role model for the rest of APJ and the larger SAP's startup ecosystem, and we're kind of leading that discussion forward. To your second question, in terms of where do you see SAP could play a role? Of course, space technology is not something that directly is connected to SAP's world of thinking, but obviously there are different technology offerings from SAP that could definitely be leveraged and harnessed by startups working in this space, especially SAP's Spatial HANA services, which essentially is a geospatial service which can be leveraged by startups. Operating in this space to kind of, leverage a specific DB, which can give you a lot more capabilities to kind of not just do the data processing, but kind of derive a lot more, specific insights. And we've seen some specific engagements on that front, especially with our global partnership with ESRI and a whole lot of startups across the globe adopting, this joint platform. And here in India as well, we have had some success stories in this front with one of our startups called Drona Maps. Again, a startup working in the space of smart city. I think they've been part of multiple smart cities initiatives, and essentially their entire layer of spatial analysis is depending on the SAP platform. So that way, so these are some of the avenues, the technology avenues through which startups could plug into the larger SAP ecosystem.
Thank you, Justin. That was wonderful to know the type of initiatives that SAP is having to support the startup world. Vikram, how is GE encouraging? I mean, you're in aviation, you're in, I'm sure you're also doing a lot of work on space technologies, propulsion systems, and so on and so forth, which are relevant to the space sector. Can you share a little bit about how you plan to support, or you may already be supporting the startup world in India, how you do it elsewhere also across the rest of the world? And when I look at a multinational like yourself supporting startups, there are three elements that I can see. One is you can provide mentoring support, which is very important. Second is you can provide access to your infrastructure from a testing or from a development point of view, because many startups or incubators may not be able to afford the type of equipment that is there. And the third is you could also invest in startups, some co-investment. So of the three that I talked about, which of the three, or do you participate in all of the three? You can throw some light on that. It would be great.
Sure, Ramanan. Can you confirm? You can hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you okay.
Yeah. So I think for us being in aviation industry, of course, when we think of startups, we think both the physical and the digital side. And I'll come in a bit on what are the opportunities and what we are doing on both those spaces. First, to start with, to the point Harish was making on component design ecosystem, it's a very big area for us to develop companies, small companies that would be able to produce aerospace grade parts. And as you know, these are high value parts, requires precision, requires skills to be able to do it. So one part of our work in India has been to develop this ecosystem to be able to manufacture parts both for commercial and eventually getting into the military applications as well that are used by Indian defense agencies. We have a large manufacturing now happening with Tatas in Hyderabad, and as you can imagine, every time we develop a supply base like that, there are many sub suppliers that develop around that ecosystem, and those are really the small companies, MSMEs that get into it and sort of form this very nice ecosystem. Another example I could give is the MRO space. So Air India building an MRO in Nagpur, and we've been very closely connected with that team and helping them develop it to be able to do the maintenance and overhaul of the engines. And it's a very niche space. Not many around the world have that capability, and we are helping that ecosystem to come up. Those would be some things that I would say on the physical side. And the I will round it up by saying it's not just these companies. We're working with universities, right? And they have a lot of this startup ecosystems within the universities nowadays. You know, they have this incubation centers. We work on advanced technologies like combustion systems, the high temperature areas inside the gas turbines that we use for propelling the aircrafts. We are looking at 3D printing, as you would have imagined. This is like you know, anyone that talks about the next industrial revolution would not miss 3D printing. And like you have said, Ramanan, the capex becomes pretty important there. Not everybody can purchase a machine that's millions of dollars worth to sort of innovate and play around. So there, what we do is to collaborate with universities and open up our infrastructure for them to come and do trials, and we go to them to do to take advantage of some of the talent and high-end research that they can do. So those would be some things that I'll throw out there from a physical ecosystem standpoint. And needless to say, aviation is no exception to the digital startup ecosystem, and we are very keen and are currently working with startups in that space. Some of the areas would be like the aircraft routing optimization, right? So if you would see airports are buzzing around the world, of course, the COVID has taken us to a downturn in the short term. But when things resume to normalcy, there is a big areas around routing optimization. How do we help airports and airlines to optimize their traffic and manage the quick turnaround times? And every time an aircraft takes off and lands, we get a terabyte of data every takeoff and landing. That's actually a gold mine of data from our perspective and from airlines perspective, to be able to understand how each of these engines are performing in the field, sort of mimicking their physical reality in a digital space. And we are working with startups in that space, including one in India, that we do a lot of work around what we call as analytics based maintenance, right? So can we really engine by engine understand how are they doing in the field and have the health check parameters all the time being monitored, and hence plan the maintenance and in interventions with AI and ML being the front end for that. So those will be some things that I will close with for this part, and I'm sure we'll talk a little more.
Thank you so much, Vikram, for sharing your initiatives as well as ideas on how some of the very complex areas can be facilitated through component design initiatives and innovations and so on. Many of the people who are logged onto this call, some are already startups, but the others are thinking of whether to get into the startup world or not. So that's always a big challenge for a university student who is coming out from the university. Should I go for a job? I have Cisco waiting for me to hire me. Should I take that job, or should I become a startup? And hopefully, Cisco will encourage my startup initiative, right? So that's the sort of questions which are there in the minds of young researchers who are out there. My question to you is, how are you collaborating to promote research